All right. I always say this. I love that little live square button at the top of the screen. It makes it very real. There's nothing rehearsed here. It's always nice to get together with the guests prior to the show for a little preamble, a little warm up, and just reminiscing on the relationship. So, on the cusp, episode 9 with Annie Anderson. I'm so stoked for this one for several reasons, which we'll discover along the way here. So again, this show is really just about real talk with real people, looking at life experiences, trials and tribulations, the challenges. Nothing sugar-coated about On the Cusp, because life is real, man. And I always use the analogy is sometimes we're eating a shit sandwich without the bread, but what do we do? What do we do to make that more palatable? Pick ourselves up, pivot, do some tweaks, and just learn to do better. So again, hopefully these conversations provide two very important things in my life, which would be inspiration, which is fuel to anybody who may be listening and having some similar challenges or experiences or nods behind the scene going, yep, been there, done that. And oh my God, don't need to do that again. And as well as tools, right? We need also tools. We need tools to collect along the way. I know I have from various mentors, various great teachers in my life. And I've taken those tools, and unless you apply them, leverage them, and use them, you'll never know how they can potentially change your life. So that being said, I want to welcome Annie Anderson to episode 9. And we met way back virtually through Facebook. And this is when I was heavily invested in Hybrid Strong, some of my 30-day challenge. And Annie mentioned something about a push-up challenge. And I guess I want to turn it over to you and to see it through how you remember that.
Oh, yes, the push-up challenge. The first interaction that I remember having with you. So it was the last day of the push-up challenge, which for anybody who didn't do it, it was 1 push-up on January 1st, 2 on January 2nd, 3 on January 3rd, 4 on January 5th, all the way to January 3rd or to December 31st, where it was 365. And I want everyone to know that I had no idea what I was doing when I planned this. I was like, yeah, we're going to do push-ups. Now, like day 1, I couldn't do a push-up. So I was like, well, and I posted on Facebook on January 1st, I did 1 push-up and everybody laughed. I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. No one was laughing in October, but I also learned a whole lot about, because I was this stay-at-home mom, let myself go kind of woman at that point. And I started this kind of as a fuck you to somebody in high school.
Nice. Love it.
I was like, I'm going to do more push-ups and better. And like, no clue what I was doing. Just that's December Annie's problem. Those 360 push-ups a day, that's her problem. Like, we're going to do 1, and then we're going to do 2, and then we're going to do 3. And there's a lot that goes into, but I didn't end up doing 360 a day, but I got down to once a week kind of thing. And then I met you on the 365 day. That's the first interaction I remember with you, is you were like, oh my God, who is this crazy woman on the internet? And I was like, oh my God, he looks like he works out. Oh. Because at the time I was like, I need some external validation here, because I'm not sure what the heck I'm doing. And you come along and I'm like, he knows what he's doing. And so it was very nice to see somebody encouraging me in my craziness and like all of that. So I appreciate that. I thank you for the external validation. It got me to the next level. So thanks.
No, it's super cool. Thanks for sharing that. So here's a picture for whoever's viewing. So this is, we were reminiscing, and Annie was saying like, this is December 2012, and that's correct because we were doing a road trip at the time, and it was December, and looking back at 10 years ago. So it's very cool that this much time later that we're still chatting and still connecting and sharing. But it's important to look back right? It's important to look back at where we were and kind of the work we've done and to where we are now. And of course, it ebbs and flows, right? Even for me in my life, I mean, fitness was always a mainstay, but careers have changed for me in the last 7 years, and I ultimately became my client. Really, I was traveling a lot and putting on weight and not working out consistently, and I was like, ooh, wow! So this is what it happens. This is what it looks like when all of a sudden you let go of putting time into for yourself, which I think is something we're going to, dive into pretty heavily along the way with this conversation. So, and you use the word validating, right? And that's so important. And it's a word that is always at the forefront for me. And validating is, letting people know that they're doing a great job, that they're hitting the mark, and that you understand the effort that goes into it. Like when you say, 360 push-ups or whatever, even if you don't get them all in, something by definition is something. So you should be extremely, extremely proud of that.
Yeah.
So very cool. So like every guest, we pick themes. We ask, Annie, hey, what are the things that you want to talk about, what you're passionate about? And Annie picked 3. So I'm going to lead out of the gates with this one, which I was like, yeah, this is perfect. Big goals, small steps.
Yes, that is the thing I learned in the push-up challenge is I'm going to do 365. I have no idea how to get there. One day at a time kind of thing. And like I said, when I started, I had no physiology. I was just sitting on my couch watching Oprah and taking care of 11 kids. So I was not into me at all. And I started this and I'm like, and again, like I said, it was a fuck you to a high school person that was like always on Facebook going, I did this. Like, so yeah, I've grown. But I decided I was going to figure it out. And, I decided I couldn't do them every day. And I could have taken that as a failure, but I took that as a pivot of like, okay, I thought I could do them every day. I can't do them every day. What can I do? And then I got to like 180 and I couldn't even do them every other day. And so that it was once a week. And if you looked at my original plan, I could have been a total failure, but it worked out great for me. And that launched me into personal training and health coaching and my infamous Twitter road trip and all of these things that have come about my life because I did one push-up on January 1st that I let everybody make fun of me for. So, and I welcome it, I guess. So.
No, and it's great. And then to jump in, looking back at, the comment of fuel. So this person, I think you said high school, which is the big, F you to that person, is that there's inspiration. Sometimes we find fuel and inspiration in the strangest places, in the strangest ways. And sometimes it's just somebody that pisses you off.
Yeah.
Or somebody that tells you that you can't, that old adage is like, show those people who the naysayers, right? The Debbie Downers, big fan of that is like, okay, well, you know what? You can have, your attitude towards me thinking that I can't, but I'm going to prove you wrong. But I think what comes out of that, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Annie, is that we prove to ourselves in that process that we can.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to go, hey, yeah, here you go. Proof of life. I did it. But I think what we come out of that, and maybe a bit of a segue into some of the other things with the big goals, small steps, push-ups. And you mentioned, getting into careers of fitness and the coaching piece and stuff. I'd love to know more about that, kind of like that evolution and how the day you finally decided to walk down that road of fitness and the roles that you've played in other people's lives.
Well, it was when I started getting validation from the push-up challenge, because I'd post pictures of my arms and be like, whoa, and then it was like, people would be like, I want to do that. And I'm like, well, go do it. And they're like, I don't know how. And I was like, I don't know how to teach you. So I just had to figure out how to incorporate that. And one of the things when I got initially into personal training, I started out at a big box gym, and it was like, get as many people in and get it. Like, it wasn't so much about the relationship. It was about the payment. And, and then I'd watch, these middle-aged women, these people who are like, I finally have time for myself, come to the gym, I want to work out, and they pick the 22-year-old boy who's never had a weight issue in his life, who's eaten, McDonald's 4 times a day, telling her that she's not working hard enough. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, pick the older lady who doesn't look as good, because I can help you. And so that kind of started me on the having a gym for people who hate gyms, and having workout classes for people who hate workouts, and making it fun, and making it something they looked forward to, and making it social, and making it like no shame whatsoever. Like, you be you, and you show up, and we'll find something. And so that's where that all started, is just that. And again, it was me looking at a problem that nobody was addressing with, and nothing against a 22-year-old personal trainer who's there every day, but it's like, they don't have the same life experience as me. And so I can have a little more grace in some areas, and not that everybody needs grace, but there are a lot of people who do. And, there's people who go all in, and there's people who are like, I want to make sure I'm okay. And I want to make sure you're okay person. So
oh man, boom. I have to literally reciprocate here. And you validated a lot of stuff for me, having been in the industry as a strength and conditioning coach, for over 20 years. And I had my own business for a long time, which is a very, very sweet thing, because you are in control of your experience and you're not working for the man. And I did transition to working for a big box outfit where, like you said, was all about revenue. How much revenue can you get in the door? And that was, let's say, their platform, and how they, wanted to drive business and trying to sell a person on a year's worth of personal training. Now, you can justify anything. Right. And, to a person, but I was cut of the same cloth as you, where it was always about truly seeing the person for who they were in that consultation, and really connecting to them emotionally as to their journey up to this point where we're chatting, and the journey that they were looking to embark on with a relationship of a coach or a trainer. And that is a very, very trusting and intimate relationship. And like you said, is yes, a person who doesn't have the same life experiences, that haven't gone through the same challenges for a person now who's 50, or you along the way, you've been there. It's not taking away from somebody who's 22 and younger. You just can't connect to somebody who's been through some life shit. Yeah. So I applaud you for that. So how did you approach the piece around, hey, I don't necessarily know how to help you, but you figured out that piece to be able to do that. And clearly you've been doing it for many years. So where did you go under construction in that area of your life as a coach?
It was, if I can teach you one thing, then I can go learn another thing, and I can teach that to you tomorrow. And so that's kind of the approach that I took. It's like, I don't have the answers. And I think that's a thing that people enjoy about me as well, is like, I will tell you straight up, I know nothing about anything. I will go find out, and I will love finding out for you. But like right now, if I don't know, I don't know. And there's no shame in that. And a lot of people do have shame in not having all the answers. And I just don't understand that. Like, I don't know anything. I am willing to try it and screw it up and try it again and screw it up again. And 72 times later, I'll figure it out, and we'll get there, and it'll be fine. And that's just how I will go through things. So
and everything you're sharing, Annie, is exactly why I knew this show would be great, because you're one of the realest people that I know, and that's what I like to connect to. I mean, I always talk about being the black sheep. I have been my whole life, because I'm not afraid to say, yeah, no, fuck you, man, that's so wrong. And if you don't like me for it, great. Especially the part where you talk about not having the answers. Now, in the training industry, one, it's a very contrived industry. It's very much all about aesthetics most of the time.
Yes.
And people think they're the subject matter expert on everything. So they'll try and bullshit their client about, oh yeah, no, I know how to do that. And oh yeah, no, I know best. And and I, like you, there were many times along the way when, I was learning and I learned and kept learning and kept learning. I was open to learning and I made mistakes. And I would be the first one to tell a client, I go, I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
Or after a consultation to say, I don't think I'm your guy. I think for what you're trying to do and the investment you're trying to make, not only financially and with time, I think you'd be better suited with a person who has this experience and background. Because I don't want to make a straight line crooked for you. I want you to get from A to B as efficiently and effectively and as safely as possible. Yeah. So that's why I really appreciate your last statement, your last comment about being like, dude, I don't know, man, but I'll go to school on it and I'll learn and I'll come back. And then I don't know if you've ever had this, and I want to come back to something about, the gym you started and all that, because I'm fascinated about that piece. Is I've even had people where I know the recipe, it's tried and true. I've cut my teeth on it. I've gotten the results with a lot of people. And then I would have clients that would question me in every session what we were doing, or print something off the internet and say, hey, Steph, I was reading this off the internet, and it says this, and it's kind of like not what you're saying. And I'm like, yeah, well, the internet's an expert place where you can find, all the answers to all your needs. All I know is that based on our chat and what your goals are, and based on what I know for sure, this is the recipe that's going to work for you. But hey, if you want to follow this for less money and do your printout and go about it yourself, I support you 100%. So anyway, so you created an environment that wasn't so gymmy. That it's, and there's a whole, I'll let you speak to that. So tell me about that space you created for people.
Well, so I did the push-up challenge, I did the road trip, I came back, I started doing health coaching, and which I enjoyed because a lot of that was, a lot of the training plans and eating plans and nutrition plans are all like, we're getting up at 5, we're eating kale, and, we don't care about what your life looks like, but we're getting up at 5 where we're eating kale and we're going to meal prep, 72 meals for the week. And I'm looking at it like, I have time. So like, okay, what can I handle today? And that's where I've kind of like, I'm most comfortable. It's like, what's the most idealized version of myself that I can live today, given my, schedule and my feelings and my health at the time and all the things that go into it. I am not worried about, next year. I'm worried about today and what can I do to be the best version of myself today. And that is where I led a lot of people was, okay, yeah, you're not eating kale salads and drinking kale smoothies and, getting up at 5 and going to the gym for 3 hours. What are you going to do today? And is that progressing you down the road at all? And so that's just kind of how I did the health coaching was, okay, here's where you actually are. Here's where you want to be. You can't be the person who runs a marathon today. How do you get to run a marathon? And how long do we have? How long do you want to take? Because you can do it. You can do it in a couple months. You can do it in a couple years. What's your personal life look like to get you there? And I will help you get there. And it wasn't, I'm not a 5 a.m. girl. I'm not a kale smoothie person. Like, kale can go fuck itself. I don't care. Like, it's just nasty. And, but it's doing better than you did yesterday to be the best person that you can be today.
Oh my goodness, man. I am just like beaming from the inside. There's so many things there that you said. What makes your authenticity so great in the people that you deal with is exactly that. I mean, you're authentic and you're honest, and you don't, you sugarcoat, and you tell people, yeah, it's going to be hard work, but people, and you're just bringing up so much of my life, is people are consumed and overwhelmed with the final picture, right? The end game. And again, in this theme, when you talk about, small steps, big goals, that ties into exactly everything you just said. You want to run a marathon, you want to, lose X amount of weight, you want to be able to do a Spartan race, whatever that may be. is that's probably the greatest advice in the world you give to somebody is just focus on what you can do today. And I would always say to people, not every day is created equal. You're not going to get the same result workout after workout. Some days you're going to be, I really don't want to do this, but then you do it. But it's kind of flexing that mental muscle of having actually got it in, even though it wasn't the greatest workout possible. And another thing that that you mentioned that just kind of cuts right through me like an x-ray is also being that best version of yourself and being better than yesterday. And I'd always tell people, my clients, ask more of yourself today. Just ask. But yet, how do you eat an elephant, Annie? One bite at a time. One bite at a time. And that ties into your, on Facebook, it says Annie Anderson becoming awesomer.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's kind of what you're talking about here, right?
Yes. Although, little known secret, Facebook has banned becoming awesomer for hate speech because, and like I was one of the first people, they shut me down. Like I can't do ads or boosts or anything on my Facebook because becoming awesomer, that phrase is hate speech. And I'm like,
are you serious?
I'm like, somebody needs to explain this to me. But it was like, the final answer came back that I was telling people that they needed to be better. And I'm like, well, yeah, but they're already awesome. They're getting awesomer. They're not getting awesome. Like, I don't know. So I've been banned from Facebook on becoming awesomer for like 6 years. So, and yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. Oh, you know what? I'm speechless. I mean, I know it's a pretty bad scene out there. We were talking about that in the studio before we jumped on live around. You just can't say anything. Yeah. And that, wow.
Yeah.
You're already awesome. You're just working on becoming awesomer. And yet, awesome. That's a social problem.
Yeah. And so I went through like an identity crisis. Like I was like, that is the thing. I want everybody to become awesomer, but I still struggle with letting go of that because I love it so hard. Like you're becoming awesomer, but yeah, it is what it is.
Well, I'm surprised that this show hasn't been basically canceled off of Facebook already, to be honest with you, with all the shit I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they look at the content. I think they look at the headline. So it was,
Yeah. They're AI, right? That's just, this is what we're run by today. And again, for the viewing audience, we do welcome comments or questions. And so that's always appreciated. So you mentioned a Twitter road trip. I want to know, I got in mind like a steel trap, Annie. I mean, that's probably the first thing that's going to fail as I age. So while I still have it, I'd like to know more about that.
Okay, so my Twitter road trip, it happened. Okay, so while I was doing my 2011 push-up challenge, I was also getting a divorce. And so I was on Twitter one night and I was like, well, my divorce is final, blah, blah, blah. And somebody's like, well, what are you going to do after you get divorced? And I'm like, I don't know. And they said, no, you're going to Disney World. And I'm like, oh, but yeah, I suppose, because the famous, what are you going to do now that you've won the Super Bowl? I'm going to Disney World. And so I said, well, yeah, I'll go to Disney World. Somebody want to take me? And somebody said, yeah. And then somebody from, New York was like, well, you need to come visit me too. And then everybody's like, well, if you go to Florida and New York, you should come to Ohio. And it just turned into this churning of, you should come see me. And I'm like, well, that's great. I would love to take 90 days to come see all of y'all. But I don't know if you got the memo. I'm a broke single mom right now. And they were like, oh. And so it turned into this thing where I would be like, I was living in Corpus Christi at the time, which is a couple hours down the road. But I'm like, okay, I'm in Corpus. I want to go somewhere tonight. I don't want to drive more than 4 hours. You got to feed me. You got to provide drinks. You got to provide entertainment. And I'll sleep on your couch. And so I went to Dallas the first night and slept on somebody's couch, and then Oklahoma. And I made my way like all over the country. And I'd just be like, I'm in Oklahoma City. I need a place to stay tonight. And somebody on the Twitterverse would be like, come stay at my house. And I just leapfrogged across the country for 90 days, staying on people's couches.
Wow. And a lot of these people were strangers?
Except for there was a lady in Denver that I also met on the internet. And but everybody else was people I knew from Twitter and never met before in my life, and just Twitter relationships that came through. And I stayed on 90 days on the road.
So before you embarked on that absolutely coolest journey, was there any anxiety and fears and reservations before you stepped out the door?
Well, it's part of my big goals, small steps kind of thing. I make these ridiculous things. I'm like, I'm going to go on a 90-day road trip and visit only people I meet on Twitter. And when it comes to the point of walking out the door, is always the point where like, well, this is bullshit. This is stupid. Like, extrovert Annie needs to shut her mouth on Twitter and let me just sit here behind my computer and do things. But I had sublet my apartment. So there was a guy moving in, and I was like, guy or 90-day road trip. I think I'll go on the road trip. But I do that. Like when I started flagging for race cars, which is another story, I was like, I'm so excited. I get to go flag a race, and I'm so excited. And then I got to the day of the race, and I'm supposed to leave and go show up and go to a safety meeting and all this other stuff. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why? Like, I don't even want to go. I'm like, but I promised people, so I got to go. And it's turned into a great life for me. But I make these things. Extrovert Annie's like, yes, this sounds fun. And then when it gets to the time, I'm the one going, I don't know if I want to do it. But I have reframed that recently, and I do things that I know are exciting or going to be exciting for me, and I'm just honoring my commitments now. So.
That's what. Thanks for sharing that story, and that ties into that classic piece around they say in all kinds of self-help books and motivational books and whatnot that I've read along the way. It's like, say a goal out loud to your friends and your closest family members and whatnot, so that you're forced to commit to it. In 3 months I'm going to do this. So that's clearly what you're doing, right? It's like extrovert Annie is saying it to the world. And then when that day comes, because I've been there, it's like, oh, snap, that's today, right? Shit. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I can't back out now, right? So you have a certain accountability, a level of accountability to yourself, but also accountability to the people that you sort of, committed to out loud. So I think that's really, really cool that you got past those, those anxieties and just went out, especially at that time in your life. So I don't want to forget, because some of the things we've talked about so far was, your gym that you had. And then even some of this. So here's a great picture I find about putting in the work, right? So maybe if you want to just share that, because my background, knowing that you don't get from one scenario to another scenario without an enormous amount of work and commitment. So this is all yours.
That is the arm from my push-up challenge. And the first one, now I was super proud of the first one. I did not take a before picture, which is why I make everybody take before pictures now, because I'm like, you never, ever, ever have to show anybody, but in a year, you're going to show everybody. The first picture in the upper left-hand corner was like 30 days in. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. Wow. And then, a couple of progression pictures throughout, but then there's one that was like 219 days. And then the back picture was mid-October. And I was like, all you people who was making fun of me on January 1st, check it out. And
Wow, Annie, that is amazing. And I like what you said too, though. I'm learning a lot from you in this on the show. Is the before and after pictures. You don't need to show anybody. It's kind of like just that measuring stick for yourself. We want to know what we've accomplished, right? And then the part I like the best is, but then when that transformation happens, you're going to want to show everybody. So, and it's true. It's so true. In the moment where they're at, they're like, yeah, no, I don't want to, take pictures of this, but that is super cool. So I'm going to show another one here.
Yeah. And that was, I think, 3 months difference. And it was just, like I said, I let go of myself and was like, whatever, this is just who I am now. I'm old and getting fatter. And then I just woke up one day and decided, no, that's not who I am. And like 3 months later, boom. And
Amazing, man.
yeah, and
Amazing.
it was, and it's, I mean, it's hard, but it's not hard. And it's, you know, sometimes you need somebody to show you or have some motivation for some reason. And it's, but yeah, I just decided one day and made that decision and made that commitment to myself. And here I am. So.
Brilliant. And now you said something that I would like to pick your brain on a little bit more. You said it's not hard. It's hard, but it's not hard.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that, Annie?
Well, most of the questions I get, well, I don't know what to eat. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to eat? Well, I don't know, you know, and they're not in touch with themselves. So it's, you know, the difference between a cookie and a carrot. Like, I don't place any value on a cookie being bad and a carrot being good, but you know that there are steps that you can take to be healthier and steps that you don't have to take to be healthier. And so, you know, when you're sitting there, do I eat a cookie or a carrot? I want to be healthy. Maybe I'll choose the carrot. So you know that. You just don't want to be the one to make the decision, like, if it doesn't work out. So you want me to tell you to eat the carrot so that when you don't reach your goals because I didn't tell you all along the way how to reach your goals, you can blame me for not reaching them. And so the hardest part of what I do personally is I'm telling people, fuck the diet, fuck the exercise. What do you want? What can you do? And what resources do you have to meet those today? And when you decide to become healthier, you'll automatically make healthier choices. Like, you'll be like, oh, if I eat a bag of Oreos today, I'm not going to feel great. Maybe I will try a carrot. And that's where I'm at, that I think sets me apart from other industry people, is that I don't give a fuck about your diet. Like, eat whatever you want, eat what makes you happy, eat what gets you through. You know, I had 87 kids. And so it was like, we're just making it through the day. And, you know, I just want people to know themselves better. And when they know themselves better, they make better choices. When they love themselves more, they're like, okay, I will make better choices for myself and my family.
Okay, you rounded the corner nicely there. You totally underpinned everything you just said, but that last comment, you know, especially about loving yourself more. There's no truer words. There's no truer words. You have to start there, because we're all struggling with different things emotionally, and we all know, and there's not one person, and I challenge them in a UFC cage to this comment right now. We are all fighting our own different demons and different stressors and different things, and it's easy to default to doing, you know, the wrong things. It's just the way it goes. And until you acknowledge that, you know, I have self-worth. I value my health. I'm maybe not feeling really good. I'm not looking as good as I would like to be. But the way you put it to people, it's kind of like, and tell me if I'm wrong, you kind of already know what you need to do. And if you're looking for somebody, meaning me, to be the one to tell you what to do so you can put the blame on me if things didn't work out for you, versus going, hey, dude, this is how it is. You first have to look at yourself, acknowledge what's not working, and to identify, like you said, it's like me. I'm an extremist. There's no middle ground for me. You know, if I basically go off of, you know, working out training, I start consuming all the wrong things, start eating all the wrong things, and I just don't care. When I start making better choices, everything seems to be aligned. But the moral of the story, what you shared, Annie, which is brilliant, is really that self-love. It's that love for self, and you have a current state and doing the right things to get to that ideal state. So I thank you for that. That's yeah, for sure. So another picture I want to throw up here, because they're all really cool. Where is it? I really like this one. I thought this was a really good shot. Now, is this in your gym that you created for yourself?
Yeah, that was in my trapeze studio version 3, I think. I've had a lot of yoga studios, but yeah, that's my sling studio. And I just love, like, there was somebody taking pictures there that night, and I was just doing my thing, and she got so many great pictures. But that just like, okay, this is my room and I own it. And it was very like, coming from a person who, like, I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. I didn't have confidence in my leadership or my ability to do things. And I don't know where that came from, just, life bullshit or whatever. But when I saw that, I was like, man, I own that room. That is my room. And so.
And when I saw this picture, that's how I felt. That's what emanated from this picture, that Annie is in her elements.
Yeah.
It's just what oozes from this picture. And I love that, right? I love that. And, having been a coach in many ways for so many years, and like you said, like you doubt yourself sometimes, and you're not sure if, you're actually, this is my jam or I'm good at it. But then you start seeing some results, and there's nothing cooler and more fulfilling than kind of growing into exactly how you look here. It's like, this is my element and I own it. So I'm proud of you for that. That's super cool.
And like I said, every time I see that picture, I'm like, damn, girl, that person knows. Oh, that's me. Oh, so.
Yeah, you're like, that is me. So here's another one.
Oh yeah, that's my current favorite. That was taken in that same studio, and I looked at it the other day. I'm like, why isn't this all over my social media? Like, that is a freaking awesome picture. And
absolutely. Now, I've never done such classes, Annie, and I hear it's tough.
Yeah.
So maybe just share a little bit about like the ins and outs of such a class, and just the benefits and the fun of it, and how it's distinctively different from just a classical lift some weights and do some treadmill.
Oh, well, okay, so first of all, I never did yoga, because you'd go to a yoga class, you sit there, you'd listen to words that are weird, and you're like trying to figure out what those words mean, so yoga just, and I was visiting a friend, and she's like, hey, you want to go take a sling yoga class? And I'm like, yes, I do. That sounds fun. And immediately, it was love at first flight is what I call it. I was like, the second I got on that thing, I was like, this is my thing, because you're hanging upside down a lot, and you're like, you have to be present in the moment when you're hanging upside down and flipping around and doing things. And so for like that hour, I didn't have any problems. I was like, I didn't have bills. I didn't have ex-husbands. I didn't have anything. I just was there for the moment. And the second I left, I was like, this is my life. I'm figuring out how to do this, and I'm going to go and be a sling yoga teacher. And I didn't even know what it was called, because industry standard wasn't established very well then. So I did some research, ended up getting on a plane, going to Barcelona and getting my certification. It was just like,
you're kidding.
No, that was the only place
that
Yoga Alliance was certifying sling teachers at the time, was Barcelona. And I think I was in the third class of certified teachers. But I was just like, we're doing this. And again, I was getting ready to go to the airport, and I was like, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. Like who quits their job and teaches hanging upside down yoga? I don't know.
Wow.
And so, but I got on the plane, and here I am. So
you are so inspiring, Annie. You are so inspiring. I genuinely mean that. I mean, here another scenario where you're going, okay, and and there you go, off to Barcelona. It's not like it's another state somewhere in a city. So clearly, you were a pioneer.
Yes.
In this this industry.
Yes, I was an early adopter for, and the device I use is a trapeze sling from Yoga Body, and that's who certified me along with Yoga Alliance. But they've been great to me, and like you said earlier, like, it's not lifting weights, but it's all body weight. So you're lifting weights, and I mean, I don't work out, so I'm doing all right. I just play, and
you say something there. I like the play part, because there's nothing better than getting fit and not realizing that it's a grind.
Right.
I used to tell people all the time. You said it. Find something that turns you on. Find something that motivates you to move, right? Because it's just going to be easier. If you're enjoying it, it's just going to be easier. And then the return on that investment is you're going to get fitter, you're going to get stronger, you're going to look better, you're going to feel good about that, all those great things. Now, do you get a good sweat doing this?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can, yeah, it was funny because when I got to Barcelona, they were like, okay, Tuesday's going to be like a travel day. So we're going to go kind of easy on the workout. I literally was worried about my health. I was like, damn, what did I get myself into? And that was another thing is like, we had, I think there were 3 people who dropped out after the travel day workout. Like they just never showed back up. And I'm like, why would you come to Barcelona and not finish this? But different story. But I was like, I don't have to get through this whole week. I have to get through the next hour. And I've never sweated so much in my life. I've never sworn so much in my life. And I've also never been prouder of myself because I was like, I wanted to quit 900. I was like, fuck this shit. I don't care. And I'm just going to go sit on the beach. It's 2 blocks away. I never saw the beach. I was in Barcelona. I was like, oh yeah, there's the beach. Never saw it because I was here for my purpose and my reason. And that was to become a certified yoga instructor. So.
And along come the gifts and experiences that life have to provide when we take a chance and we go out on a limb. Now, I like what you said, about, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? What have I done? And then it's back to that, okay, small steps, big goals, just focus on this hour, focus on today, get through. And you said a couple of things that conjured up a book that I like. I forget his name. He's a Scottish author, and I listened to his audiobook is How to Unfuck Yourself.
Oh,
And in the title of his book is Get Out of Your Head and Get Into Your Life.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about here today, is getting out of your head and getting into your life. Yeah. That's the perennial message that I'm taking away from you here. And that's so inspiring, honestly. Good for you, man. That's so cool. So did you have anything to add to that? Because I have another theme. Well, I think probably there's 2 more really to focus on, but I think a good transition here is go all in on being you. Now, I said this in the studio room before we went live, and I don't know if Roger Casanova. So he's from Texas. He's out of Austin. He's the one who's done my 4 logos so far, and I know he would really appreciate that being like a very Texan adage, like go all in on being you. It's kind of like that Texas Hold'em. Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Well, I spent the first majority of my life making sure everybody else was happy. Like, okay, does the husband have all the things he needs? Do the kids have all the things they need? And you wake up one day and you're like, who the hell am I and how did I get here? Mm-hmm. And you don't have an opinion about anything. Like, oh, what do you think about that? I don't know. Like, and I remember the day that we were in marriage counseling that we kind of decided that I was moving out and that we were proceeding with this divorce. And I was sitting in my car. I sat in my car for an hour. I had nowhere to go. I had nothing to do. I didn't have anybody to take care of. It was all up to me, like everything. And I'm like, I have no idea. And I'm like, I could call a friend. Oh, well, my friends have lives. They can't do anything right now. And it was just, that was the most terrifying part of all the process was like, I don't know what to do unless somebody's telling me or unless I'm doing it for somebody else. And I had to turn all of that back on me. And I recommend doing it in baby steps, not just jumping off the cliff. But I had to, and what I call it is I point my feet towards happy and I walk that way. And so it's, and I had to learn to like all of the things that I didn't think that people would like about me. Because I'm a big fat dork. I'm like, yeah, I'm a dork. And I always tried to like shove that down. And, who has these crazy ideas about push-ups and sling yoga and this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, that's something I love about myself is my willingness to just jump in, go off the deep end and see what happens. So, and the more I love myself, the more I have room to love everybody else. Like, I'll get my kids in here and they'll tell you, like, yeah, she's a much better person. Like, she is selfish and like she doesn't care. Like, but we love her so much more. Like, you ask me to do something, I'm like, nope, I don't want to do it. And I have no social guilt about that at all. And my kids are like, yeah, they're the ones who've had to watch me walk through this thing. And they're like, people pleasing Annie? No, she never needs to come back. Selfish Annie who just tells people to fuck off and stay out of her lane. We love her. And coming from my kids, that means a whole lot because, like I said, they've had to pay the price of my journey a lot.
So yeah, and there's nothing more honest than kids, this whole last bit is, it really touches me emotionally in a way that, and I'm a very expressive person. I can usually find the words for a lot of things. And, pointing your feet to happy. I love that. Never heard of it that way. And it sounds so simple when you say it, right? Just point your feet to happy, but fucking hell, man. It is harder than you think. And the only way to start nudging those feet in that direction is really truly to start being more selfish and stop saying yes to everybody else and start saying yes to yourself. And the fact that you were able to arrive at that and not be feeling guilty about it, right? Because understanding what a life of servitude is, this man here understands it very, very well, and looking after and taking care of everybody else. And, is sometimes leaves you completely empty. And I had to, along the way, figure that out a little bit. And I'm not a pro at it yet, but, it's definitely wanting to point feet to happy. And the other thing that, that I like what you said is, when you do take care of yourself, people like you more because you're able to, when you do give, it's just that much better. And I'm proud of you, Annie. Like, I'm proud of you. You should, and then I'm sure you don't need me to tell you to be proud, because the work is evident based on the things that you've been through and the courage that you've had along the way to persevere and pick yourself up and get to that other side, right? So I think this is probably a good segue. Just some of the things that you mentioned is the picture we talked about before going live. It's this one here.
Those are my babies.
Okay, yeah. When you told me that in the studio room, you said those are my babies. I said, Annie, babies, how do you mean?
Well, those are my biological kids, my adopted kids, my foster kids. They are just my heart and soul right there. And my ex-husband, he's there too. But yeah, those are the people who made me mom, and I love them also very dearly. And that's not even all of them. So
yeah, you were saying, and you know what they say, you learn a lot about yourself through your children, and I have too, and I've learned volumes along the way of having children. But holy, the volumes you must have learned from all these individuals, these individual minds, these personalities. Must be just, you must have stories that are endless.
Yeah, stories that are endless. Yeah, and we ended up raising 24 kids, I think. And these are the ones that we kept, and I love them. But yeah, and one thing I've learned, like, my older kids definitely had a different parent than my younger kids. Like, I needed their validation, like their behavior and their, whatever, to validate my existence as a, good mom. And now I'm like, I know you're going to grow up to be whoever you're going to be. Like, I can't be like, there is no way that I can make you be who I want you to be or need you to be. So I'm just going to let you be. And so my younger kids have kind of, they've been able to be more who they want to be earlier. And, it's interesting because I know that, like, we've got 3 17-year-olds right now. And it's like, it's supposed to be the most chaos, like craziness in the world. And I'm like, no, this is what you need to be or this is what you need to go through to be who you need to be. I'm going to let you go through it, and I'm going to be here to support you. Whereas, 10 years ago, I was like, no, like, that is not acceptable. Like, we're not doing that. No way, no how. And, I lost years of my kids' lives because I was telling them who they needed to be and not letting them be who they were. And so, yeah, I just let people be who they want to be now, and I act accordingly. So.
Oh my God, Annie. God, this is so good. We can go like for days. That's what I love about you. You're saying stuff, and I'm trying to I'm clamoring to keep it all here and compartmentalize it. And so I'm going to come back to, going from trying to tell your kids or individuals to what to do and how to be and who to be. That's a big one for me. And again, I measured my self-worth based on what I was doing for everybody else.
Yeah.
And that made me very sad for many years. Yeah. Very sad. Very sad. And often moments of depression coming out of that, because that was my measuring stick. Not just being happy with and content with who I am and maybe what I should be doing for myself. And I would always push off doing something for myself because I felt guilty, because I was addicted to being there at the ready to help everybody else, whether it was family, his friends, his clients, colleagues. And I was a very miserable person inside. But unbeknownst to people, I had a very good veneer, Annie. I had a very good veneer. People always thought, this Steph, man, he's always switched on, man. This guy doesn't see a rainy day. Oh, they don't see the storm clouds on the inside of me. So, again, I appreciate that theme. Now, you talked about not telling, your kids what to do. That validates me, and I'll tell you why. With my daughters, oftentimes one will be 26 at the end of this month and one is 17. And a couple of things I said early on to them that, talking about, you and I being like, we're not sugarcoaters. I told them straight up. I said, this fucking world doesn't owe you a thing. This world doesn't think about you, doesn't consider you, doesn't care about you. You're just a fucking number. And that's, they're like, oh, that's pretty harsh, Dad. I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you that so that you don't have the expectation that your world's going to fix your problems.
Yeah.
Right. I said, only you can do that, and potentially with the help of people and guidance of people, whatever along the way, and some advice. But again, picking up those tools and leveraging them to migrate and pivot to getting away from some of that pain or things that are not working out for you. And I always said this, and you tell me if this resonates with you. I tell my girls, I go, okay, Dad, I've got this scenario and I've got option A and option B. And I go, okay, option A, option B. And I would say, okay, I have a little bit of experience there. And in this scenario, I picked option A. But it didn't go my way, blew up in my face. But it doesn't mean that my experience is going to be your experience. I'm not saying that to dissuade you from maybe picking A. And at the same time, if you're looking for me to tell you what to pick, ain't gonna happen. Because, and they're like, well, can't you just help me out? I go, that's not helping you out. That's not helping you out.
You somebody to blame when it doesn't.
Yeah, I see. You're a smart girl. That's exactly right. And that's where I would go with that. I'd say, if it blows up in your face and doesn't work for you, you're going to turn around and you're going to say, well, yeah, I went with Dad's suggestion and there you go, versus you're accountable to your choice. It's unadulterated. It's not influenced or you aren't told. So that's when you mentioned that piece around you've gotten better at, doing that. Like, hey, man, do you? I'll share with you all you want all day long about my experiences. But what you decide to do with that information, you got to form those choices for yourself. So very cool that you said that. Now, before I forget, I had, Tanya, my wife, who you met in the coffee shop that will forever be nameless. So she put on a Post-it notes instead of posting the comments on here. We got one from O'Brien, who's a high school classmate of mine. He liked your pointing your feet, in the happy direction, or pointing your feet towards happy. Let's see where I went. So she says, she loves to fuck off Annie. I personally, I think we all do, even if quietly you think that's not correct.
No.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because that's the thing that I'm like, always like, I need to calm down. I need to calm down. No more fucking off. But yes, and the counterpoint to the pointing your feet towards happy, if you point your feet in a direction and you find it hard to take a step, that's not your path. And it's come up recently where I'm like, okay, this is a path I could take. Okay, well, let's explore that. And that first step is so hard. Sometimes I'm like, maybe this isn't my path, so I'm find a happier path. So I just wanted to button that up, because that's the other side of it, is that when you can't walk in that direction, it's not your path.
Oh man, okay, so I need a little help from you here. So pointing your feet towards happy, because
Yeah.
I'm learning from you here, right? Because
Yeah.
these are my takeaways. These are adding to my toolbox. Pointing
Yeah.
your feet towards happy, learning to be able to do that versus pointing your feet towards what
Yeah.
everybody else wants, which takes
Yeah.
you away from happy.
Yeah.
So the thing that's interesting to me is, and kind of a question for you, and maybe even the viewing audience can comment on that, is, don't we intuitively know in our guts the moment our feet are pointing away from our happy?
Yes, but we also been socially conditioned to override what we want and feel and need for something else. Like, and
Mhm.
I don't speak for everyone, but it was, I was raised in a very religious community where it's like you serve everybody else, and you submit, and you do this and you do that, and I get that, it's not all about me, but also if I can't take care of myself, I'm just a liability to everybody around me. Like, I, I call it
Oh, shit.
my zombie apocalypse team. Like, when I'm picking my zombie apocalypse team, are you an asset or a liability? And if I'm sitting here going like, well, I don't know how to do things, no one's picking me for the zombie apocalypse team. I gotta have some skills and some tools, and not the baggage. Like, leave the baggage, pick up the tools. And so,
And I don't know if O'Brien is saying, yes, I love that to what you just said, but that probably is the most succinct way to capture, like, who would you pick for your zombie apocalypse team? Do you
yeah.
have the competencies needed for us to survive? Now, you're constantly feeding so much of my soul along this show, is being like, you say, can I am I competent myself? Like, so I always said this to people in this way, is, how many times have you gotten advice from someone who's telling you how you should be doing this and doing that, and then you watch them in action and they're a fucking train wreck?
Oh my God.
They're a train wreck themselves, and you're like, dude, you're on your soapbox all the time, chirping at people and telling people you should, that's not how you do it, and this is how I would do it. And then you watch them in action and they're like a train wreck. So that kind of ties into what you're saying. It's like, so I don't insert myself into telling people what they should do and how they should do it if I don't have my shit figured out.
Yeah.
Ever. And if somebody, back to earlier in the show, somebody asked me, it's like, hey, do you have any suggestions or opinions or any thoughts or perspectives on this? And I'll go, hey man, I don't have that part of my life figured out yet. So, okay, the race is on. So if you figure it out before me, you ring me up, man, and you tell me what you found out, right? So I'm all ears. I'm on her team, right on, man. Or Brian would be on your team, so would I.
Well, I get to choose, because it's my team.
True, and that's very important.
Show up for the audition. That's what it is.
It's to be an audition. That's very good. Yeah. Awesome. I'd be curious to see what your audition would look like, Annie. It kind of scares me, but
yeah.
Kind of scary. Yeah. It's almost like, can you survive a Squid Game or something, right?
Oh yeah. No, it's just like I said, it's just, I'm so happy to have left all the baggage behind, and but yeah. So don't be a liability. Like that, you won't make my team. So.
And I especially like that, because to be on a serious note, is, I know if I'm always rambling on Facebook. I have random moments, and a lot of people will message me sometimes like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm quoting the lyrics of a song, yeah. I'm cryptic like that, man. I'm listening to a song, music plays a big role in my life, and then they'll be like, God, dude, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, man. Look it up. It's a Tom Petty song, or it's a John Mayer song, and I just like to have fun. You've picked up on a few, right? You finished it, the lyrics. I'm like, yeah, Annie would know. Annie knows.
Yeah.
And not to be a liability. I'm always trying to pay it forward or prop somebody up and look to help somebody succeed in what they do. Another question from Tanya here. Little Post-its. Gotta love Post-its, right? So Annie, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Oh, well, I
I
don't
like that one from Tanya.
I don't think I want to grow up. As you and my Facebook friend probably knows, I have gotten into motorsports randomly. I was introduced to it a couple, 6, 7 years ago, and following race cars around the world gets quite expensive. So I was like, okay, we're going to ante this up. How do I get to go to races and not have to spend $1,000 on seats? And so I became a marshal, flagging and communication marshal. I'm on the radio, I'm waving the flags and all that fun stuff. And I don't even know where I was going with this. But that's what I'm doing.
And I'm going to put this up. There you go.
Oh yeah, that's me flagging all the time on that radio. But what I want to be growing up is chasing motorcycles around the world with a spreadsheet and being like, So I want to chase motorcycles for some random reason. So.
Okay, so I want to go further on that one because I'm a motorcycle buff. I had a motorbike in the past, actually currently looking at getting another one, but with supply and demand, everything's a waiting list. So, I've waited, almost 15 years for another one. What's another, 6 months, I guess. So why motorbikes? Why do you want to chase those so bad? Right. Dogs like to chase parked cars, but
like I said, I was introduced, I went to my first race in like 2017, like a week after I got back from Barcelona. So this was a huge time in my life. And I was sitting next to the track watching motorcycles go by, and I'm like, this looks fun and interesting. And then I got into following the racers and fast forward a couple of years, and I'm like, I'm in this place now where I can chase motorcycles, but man, it gets expensive. And there's a racetrack 2.5 hours from my house, and they hold the United States version of this European racing that I follow. And so I was like, I'm going to go flag a race so I can watch the race and not have to spend $1,000. And so I submitted my application and they're like, you're cute. This is a professional race. You've never held a flag. You need to hold a flag. And I'm like, okay. So I went back to the race right before that. And again, you're cute. This isn't a worldwide professional event. This is a United States professional event. You need to go regional. And I'm like, okay. And so I was talking to the flag marshal, and he's like, you got to work a race in January. And I'm like, well, that sounds cold and miserable. But I'm like, okay, I do the race in January. I do the United States professional race. I do the worldwide professional race. I'm in. It's great. It's my life. And so I did the race in January. I did a race or 2, maybe 3 in February because I had so much fun, even though it was freaking cold. And then COVID happened. And if you'll remember, I owned a yoga studio. And then I suddenly didn't have a yoga studio that I could open. And there were races going on. So I went and waved flags. And they didn't have spectators, but they still needed marshals. So in order to even watch a race, you had to be a marshal. And so I got all of these days on track because I got some money that I wasn't getting from that. And so I'm like, well, yeah, I'll go work a day. And ended up getting like 80 days on track the first year.
80 days?
Yeah. Like every weekend there was a race. I was there waving a flag. And I didn't realize that people don't get 80 days in a year. And so I'm on all these lists now. Like, she's done every class, she's done every race, she's done everything. And so when people need flag waivers, I get a phone call. And so as I've been doing that, I've been meeting more people and building my network and looking at like fun and interesting things. And I like to travel. I like motorcycles. I like spreadsheets. I want to chase motorcycles with spreadsheets. So that's what I would like to be when I grow up. But right now I'm building carburetors for race cars, which is
Oh my
yeah,
goodness. Wow. You know, you're so eclectic and what makes you so fascinating. No, and you know what? I have tons of different interests, and that was really hard for me early on. I'm like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I haven't the faintest idea. You know what? All I know is that I want to have fun and not be, grown up.
yeah,
But so again, small steps, big goals. You got your foot in the door.
yeah,
You figured it out. You figured it out. You said, hey, no experience. You got to be able to hold a flag. And it's like, no, you need to do a regional. But you didn't stop at, well, I can't, or there's
yeah,
obstacles. You look past those and you kept
yeah,
your eye on the prize. And that's what I find just
yeah,
very, very endearing about you and very motivating about you, Annie.
yeah,
In the face of all the other obstacles, especially you look at COVID,
yeah,
life is already a grind. And then you look at you have your studio, it's your means not only to what you do and what you love and your people, and it means to make money, and that's just basically taken away from you. And again, falling into that, persevering and finding another avenue. So if anybody's listening to this, here's a testament. Here's a perfect example with Annie,
yes,
that if you want it and you want to make it happen, you will find a way to make it happen. So great story. So will this give you an opportunity, like you're saying, maybe you could travel the world doing this kind of thing?
yeah. There's a race every weekend somewhere. So
Wow.
yeah, I've got my sights set on a few things right now. So which is kind of motivating, or it was telling me that I need to behave myself a little bit more. But then also now that I'm out here, I'm like, yeah, fuck that. I'm just not going to behave myself. I'll be
Awesome.
me, and they can. I mean, not that like I said, not that the whole world revolves around me, but if I'm me, then we can work with that, and they can be like, okay, this is a sharp point we might want to file down a little bit. I can work with that. But changing myself completely, I don't see that happening.
No, sure. Yeah, there's some prickly parts to me too, and it's like, hey, if you want me to soften that a little bit, make it a little bit more blunt, that as long as I'm good with that, and it's not forfeiting myself completely just to fit into this mold. And good for you, because the universe will work with you. It really does. It will work with you. The more authentic you are to yourself, the more you have, like you say, I'm gonna make that into, I don't know, something to put up is like point your feet towards happy. It'll work out. It really, really will. So moving on to something else. Being willing to be wrong until you're right is something you threw over the fence to me.
Oh my goodness. Everybody is so afraid of being wrong. Like, that's like a 50-50 chance no matter what you do. Like, the odds are in nobody's favor. You're either going to be wrong, you're either going to be right. That's, educated guess. We try to get better to right. But when you screw something up, it's not a failure. It's a data point that you can make better decisions from going forward. Like, had I decided to, that if I couldn't do more than 3 push-ups, I was going to give up, I would never have gotten any of this. I would have taken a different path. And, just being wrong and like, I'm going to try this and maybe it doesn't work, and that's okay. I'm strong enough to deal with the feelings that I get from things not working out. And I don't know where we lost that, like, experiment, poke the box, as Seth Godin says, like, if I touch this, what happens? And unless a lot of people don't touch things unless they know what's going to happen. And it's like, so.
So just to pause there, because O'Brien just made a comment you'll see on the screen there, a data point, and I wrote that down as well and had the same reaction because I never heard it referred as that, a data point.
Yeah, it's my spreadsheet. Like, I need all the data points.
And that's super, super cool, right? Because again, it's information you get from something that happened, good or bad. I like the way you frame that data point. Cool. Sorry. So keep going.
No, and it doesn't like, and labeling things good and bad is also like, it most things aren't good or bad. They're just, again, data points. Like, did this help me? Did this hurt me? Is something that hurt you bad or good? Because there's a lot of good that's come from my life when I've been, punched in the face by life. And, I could say, oh, well, that was a bad thing. But if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have the path that it took me down, which has led to a very good place. So was it bad or was it good? So I think I want to encourage everybody to take the labels off of things as being bad or good and just being things. So
You know what? Thank you for that. That's a gift in itself. And I'm glad that you latched onto me saying good or bad, and then sharing that they are in fact labels, right? And you kind of, it's good because it catches me and going, yeah, you know what? That's just kind of layman saying it, but it really is it's the way you view things, right? It's what you tell yourself, and that's those moments of self talk, right? And yes, I've been punched in the face by life, and I'm sure anybody who's viewing has too. It's what you decide to do, and what I mean by that is how to look at it, right?
yeah.
Is sure, in the moment it hurts. Sometimes it hurts bad to you would just want to die. You're like, throw my hands in the air and be like, hey, I can't take any more of these shit sandwiches without the bread. But for me, the way I connect to the data points you're talking about is in the way that I have also coached people. And when we're coaching people, we're also coaching ourselves. We're also reminding ourselves in the moment where we're expressing and sharing the fabric of who we are. And that's why I love coaching so much. That's why I love being in the moment where somebody will pick my brain about something and I'll get into it. We'll start just peeling that onion and going down that rabbit hole. And I'm bringing up stuff about myself that I really truly love about myself and value about myself and things that I've pushed through, and those data points. And more importantly, it's when you see people struggling and going through a really hard time and you hear them out and they let down, they have their breakdown or whatever, I usually like to say, okay, so now what do you want to do about that?
Yeah.
Now what do you want to do about that? And they kind of look at me and I go, okay, you let it out, which is so important. It's very cathartic, but now you have the means and you know what you want. We all do, but we're just afraid of it.
Yeah.
Right? We're just afraid of it. And then I just bring it just kind of right to center. Now, what do you want to do about that? And that's the conversation I want to have with that person, or the conversation you want to have with yourself when you hit those data points.
Yeah. And, and getting away from failing and winning and, again, I don't see things the same way everybody else does, obviously, but it's, failing and winning. Most of life isn't a giant win or a giant fail. It's just playing the game. And, this is a game that we don't know when the clock's running out, and we don't know what the final score is going to be. We're just here as long as we're in, and play the game, do the best you can, have fun. And if the other team scores a point, great. If you score a point, great. It's part of the game, and we're just here to play it. So
sorry, I pause and I giggle because it's just, man, I just love what you're saying, because it's just kind of, on par with who I am. And, you make playing the game. Yeah. I tell people, you got to get off the bleachers, man. You got to get off the bench, and you got to go play, and you're going to get knocked down, pick yourself up. And like you said, I like the analogies that you use. And like, my whole life is either a movie or a reference to a song. That's how my brain works, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking about the clock. We don't know how much time we have on that clock. And recently I had posted again the lyrics on Facebook about shaking hands with the clock. And it's an Alabama song, which they say, I'm in a hurry and I don't know why, right? I'm in a hurry and I don't know why, right? I'm in a rush and rush and rush until that's no fun. And, all I got to do is really is live and die. But why are we in a rush, And because that's how we're conditioned to be, is we're in a rush to try and get everything done and potentially everything done for everybody else. And then we lose ourselves somewhere in that. And I've had to learn that. I've had to learn to have how to have fun, and that
Yeah.
it's okay to have fun, and wanting to play the game. You inspire me to share something else. Is you having been a mentor and a coach to many people in your different journeys. Is I always say to team player or colleagues, even I said I have no problems to cross the dance floor, to take your hands and pull you on the dance floor and have that much needed dance. But with time, I expect you to meet me halfway on the dance floor.
Yeah.
You got to get up out of your seat and put in the effort to go and live life and experience that. So, man, you provide so many amazing, amazing
Oh,
nuggets, Annie. It's
thank
just
you.
phenomenal. So, is there anything else that you want to nail down about the whole, willing to be wrong and till
Yeah.
you're right?
Well, one of the other comments that I get about myself feedback wise is that I do post a lot about my struggles with depression and anxiety because I don't want everyone to think that I've got all my shit together and I'm just out here living my best life. Like I deal with things that we all deal with. Like, when I'm having a down day, how do I let that affect me? And that I can still be happy and be going through a tough time, and that it's not fake. It's just, dude, when I woke up this morning and I was like envisioning the ideal version of myself to put out into the world today, I can wallow in this self-pity of my depression that's, made up of fake things and stories that I'm telling myself, or I can go and experience life and point my feet towards happy and walk that way and, deal with the demons that I have to deal with, but still go out there and live my life. And that's kind of what like I said, I get a lot of feedback and a lot of clients come to me like, I have been dealing with this for so long. I don't know how to not act this way. And so I'm like, all right, I'll take your hand. Let's go. We'll find you some happy. And then I will show you the process of, and it's the very, very like basic protocol that I follow is like, go outside for 5 minutes, drink a glass of water, take a shower, make your bed. And if at the end of all that, you still want to crawl back in that bed, you've done some work, you can go back. But most of the time, once you've done all those things, you're like, oh, I don't need to crawl in that bed and wallow today. I can go do some other things. And so.
Oh, wow. A little emotional with that, to be honest with you, because it's almost like you're capturing some of my life along the way too. It's a process.
Yeah.
And it's identifying what that process is, and just even the simple things you outline there around have a glass of water, go outside. I know if O'Brien is still watching, I see a lot of his posts, and he always talks about just get outside, go outside, and he takes every opportunity to go outside. And I like being outside too. That's where some of my longest ramblings come from, if I'm walking along and doing a hike and I'm just inspired to share something. And that's my ability to change my environment. And it's kind of like changing the environment in my head.
Yeah.
And the fact that, what you start off with is just being very real about it. And you're like, oh, here I am. Maybe at face value, you think I do have my poop in a group and that I have some kind of magic elixir I drink every morning that allows me to point my feet towards happy. It's actually work. It's making a conscious decision to say, what do I want to be today?
Yeah.
What do I want this to be today? And maybe I'm not fully in the pocket, but you know what? I'm going to do my damnedest to create a day for myself that's going to be other than maybe this ickiness that maybe I'm experiencing in the moment. And that's just sharpening that mental blade, eh? That's just doing the work and going through a process. And you're very wise, Annie, and that comes from going through a lot. And I want to bring it back to something I mentioned to you in the studio, and you talked a little bit about it just a minute ago. Is I've always paid attention to what you write, and I've seen you write some stuff along the way on Facebook, and I would consume that in a way that just like feeling it And because what you share, you can't write that beautifully, eloquently, and succinctly to something without there being a story or some very, very real emotion about it. So I noticed that you're an extremely great and accomplished writer. So
Well, thank you.
how does that play a role in your life? Because I like writing too.
Writing. Well, and that was a self-confidence thing. I like loved writing classes in high school, and then like, why write? After high school, because no one's telling me that I have to write. So, and I only do things that people tell me to do. So I'm not going to write. And then blogging came along, and I started a blog in, I think, 2007. And people were like, "Oh my God, Annie, you're a great writer." And I'm like, it's a blog. Like, it's fine. and but it's very therapeutic for me because I get to say all the things. I talk a lot. And if you're around me, I think that could kind of get overwhelming. Like, please stop talking. And which is my core childhood wound, is I talked a lot and everybody would tell me to shut up and go away. And so I'd be like, okay, don't say anything and go over here. And from the childhood or the child aspect, like, oh, nobody like me. I'm like, but from the mother side, I'm like, yes, please shut up and go away. Like, that's a lot of information. So writing lets me get all of these words out. And, I don't edit myself. And which, if a technical person ever showed up in my writing class, they'd be like, Annie, yeah. But it's the story and the storytelling that really makes it so therapeutic for me. And I share those stories in hopes that one person, like, I don't care if 1,000 people read it, but if it gets to the right person and helps them put a tool in their tool bag and remove some of the baggage, then I'm more than happy to share my life as openly as I do.
And for everything you just said are the very reasons why I've always wanted to write, express myself. Been chipping away at a book. It's kind of one of those things I'm trying to hold myself accountable to. For the same reasons, I find it very cathartic to write, very therapeutic. And the other thing I think that writing and some of the things that you share that people will read and connect to is so I look at it. It gives me permission as the writer to feel and acknowledge my emotions and what I'm going through without necessarily yet publishing it. Because sometimes when you hit the publish button, you're about to be like, these are the most very realist, raw parts of myself. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that might go, and I was like, okay, I shed that worry a long time ago. So the permission to give myself to feel these things in that moment that I'm writing, but it's also giving the permission to the reader who's reading what I have to write, the permission to feel things that are common to them as well. And like you said, even if it's just one person that connects to it and that allows them to give themselves the permission to say, you know what, I am human and this is okay because somebody else has put it down on paper and are saying the things that I'm feeling. That's a gift, and you're a gift, and what you do and what you share is a gift. And for times that I've had people reach out to me, I do a lot of leadership training, and there's always one or two people at the end of a session that sits down, comes back, and just are emotional. And they said, you basically shared my life without knowing me. And that's just being real about we're all feeling things, but just in different ways, but a lot of times different stimulus, but same outcomes. And giving people an opportunity to say, here I am, I'm the poster child for that shit show. And you know what? It's okay. But more importantly, it's kind of, again, going back to songs. Garth Brooks has a song for the Oklahoma bombing, right? The Change. And in his song, he says, I don't do what I do for the hopes or the intent to try and change the world. I'm doing this so that the world doesn't change me.
Yeah.
And this is going way back when I first, learned about Garth Brooks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, again, a validating moment for me. I'm like, shit,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to change the world. I'm just not letting the world change me. So I'm going to keep being Annie. I'm going to keep being Steph, right? So
Yes.
just hitching my wagon to that great piece you just shared there. So as we're, rounding the corner on our show, there's one more question, and usually I'm going to plant the seeds now. So with each guest, we want to kind of underpin the show, anchor the show at the end with one or two takeaways that you would want anybody who's listening and viewing this show now, and because this is forever and ever on the YouTube channel as well, that may want to go and revisit it or see it for the first time or share. We're going to get to that at the end. A couple of very important takeaways, Annie, that you want the audience to take away. But this is another one from Tanya.
All right.
Post-it number 3.
Love the Post-its.
Yes. What else is on Annie's bucket list? I mean, we talked about the motorcycle stuff. So what else is on your bucket list?
I need to go to Alaska. It's the only state I haven't been to. So, but I'm trying to decide whether I want to save it for something special. I don't know. We're still working on that. But other than that, I empty my bucket list pretty regularly. Like, I will go to Kentucky on a Thursday because I heard something fun was happening, and just go because, well, it's the lovely it's the lovely thing about being Annie. Like, I build carburetors for race cars so that I can live in the racing life and be in the racing life, and that, I don't know. I like emptying that bucket list very quickly just because it's, I'm holding on to Alaska. I don't know why, but if somebody wants to take me to Alaska, I'll sleep on your couch.
Well, funny you mentioned that. That's on our bucket list too.
Yes.
We've really been in the last few years trying to get to Alaska and trying to find the timing for that. That's something we really, really want to do. But I just wrote this down in big letters because, again, I knew the show would be great because you'd be saying stuff I've never heard before. And I've been to many rodeos, and you're taking me to school, and you took me to school real hard on that last comment. And I put it this way: I empty my bucket on the regular. This is kind of how I capture it. I'm like, how super smart is that?
Yeah, like
how super smart is that? Instead of, I'm just letting it accumulate. I'm just letting it accumulate. And then hopefully I'm healthy and wealthy enough and have the means to do all this shit that's in my bucket.
Yeah.
Then versus emptying it on the regular.
Yeah, when I am grumpy and pissed off at life because I didn't get to do anything for the last 75 years, now I'm going to go enjoy it.
That's honestly... that you rang a bell, and that bell's just ringing right now.
Yeah, just go. Yeah, empty that bucket. Like,
brilliant in its simplicity.
Simple. Let's go.
But it's going out and doing it, right? So, another gem. So, okay, so that last bit for us. What are a takeaway or two takeaways really important for you that you'd want to leave with us?
I want everybody to dream big. Like, the thing that you think of most is a dream that's put into your heart by whatever puts things into our heart. And that is something that the world needs from you, is your dreams to be fulfilled so that you can contribute to the expansion of the universe and life. And if you're not doing that, then we got to find somebody else that wasn't created to fill that niche so that, it can be brought to the world. And if everybody just stays in their lane and does what they love and dreams big and goes after it and forgets all of the things they shoulda, woulda, coulda done, then, we expand the universe and make it a better place for everybody. And I just so strongly believe that you are here for whatever reason, put here by whatever keeps the planets from crashing into each other. You are that important, and you're not here just because, mom got drunk 50 years ago, whatever. You are here. You chose to be in this existence and have this human experience, have it all. Like, go for it. So.
Holy shit.
Like, ooh, my brain.
You just validated my whole existence. Honestly, Annie, I knew this would be therapeutic. This show, this session, actually, I'm going to call it this session with you, very therapeutic, and validate everything from a young age that I felt. When you put it that way, is you're do something that the world can benefit from. Do something, and be something and chase something and be passionate that the world can benefit from. Another just sound message, and it's that finding a life full of purpose, or work that's purposeful, life full of purpose, as I call it. I'm going to be really reeling about this episode for a very, very long time, because I mean that's what I try to do daily, is just to let people know that you have something to contribute, and it doesn't have to be big, right? It doesn't have to be big. It's the small stuff that adds up to big stuff. Back to your small steps, big goals. Great message, Annie. And I really hope that anybody who's watching this today is going to watch this in the future will listen to all the mic drops you had along the way in the show, because there were many that were just absolutely sensational. And I find with these shows, it's really a check-in. It's a check-in with yourself when you're chatting with somebody the likes of you, and you'll say stuff, and I'm going, this girl is making me think, and I like that. People who make me think I'm a big fan of, and I'm a big fan of you, Annie, and I have been for a long time. So again,
it's mutual. I've just been a fangirl from you from day one. Like you're very kind to me when not everybody in the space was kind to me. So I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad that was your experience, because when my feet hit the floor every morning, that's my intention, is to leave people and things in a better place.
Yeah.
And you clearly do that as much as you can every day, based on what you shared here. So Annie, you've anchored the show with that last statement, that takeaway, and thank you so much for taking time and spending it here with me on the cusp. And if ever you have an idea for thanks, Roger. Appreciate that. Likewise, so are you, man. Birds of a feather flock together. We tend to find each other. If you ever want to do a show and you have an idea or something, just look me up, and be happy to do it. So with that being said, much love.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Annie.
you. You have a great weekend.
You too, likewise. And everybody else, thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.